Get your stinking paws off me, you damn dirty ape!
We're going streaking!
Dave's Video Graveyard.
That guy in a little coat. At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought.
I'm not a smart man.
Shut up!
One tubby.
What's wrong with him?
My first thought would be alive.
Why so serious?
Wise man say forgiveness is divine, but never pay full price for late pizza.
Hail to the king, baby.
Hey, Ma! The meatloaf! We want it now! The meatloaf!
Of all the radio shows in the world, this is definitely one of them. Dave's Video Graveyard on 100.5 WOWFM.
Okay, you people sit tight, hold the fort, and keep the home fires burning. And if we're not back by dawn, call the president.
It is 100.5 WOWFM, Dave's Video Graveyard for your Monday night. An absolute pleasure to be with you once again. This evening, it is a guest choice special, and we are very lucky to have two guests in the studio. And, of course, all the listener out there will have a gripe to take up with these two, because they are the reason that this show was secretly pre-recorded for about 2 months. I am talking right now to LEGOmasters 2020. Trent and Josh join me in the studio. Guys, how are you going?
Fantastic, Dave. How are you?
Great, thanks.
Not too bad. It's good to, much like at the end of a battle where it ends well, it's good to get in the same room with you guys and let each of you know that everything's fine. We battled it out every Monday night for ratings, and I'm glad that you guys could be humble enough to come after I destroyed you every Monday night for the whole run of the show. How are yous going anyway?
Yeah, doing pretty good.
Good. And if we're happy to lose to anyone, it's you, Dave. So more than happy with that.
That's it. So I guess the first question I really have is, how much has your life changed from being a part of LEGOmasters?
Well, the school pickup's a lot more challenging now because instead of, just being able to go in, get my son and duck out again, I get swarmed by kids. So it turns that into about a half-hour process each day. But apart from that, everything's pretty standard. It's all pretty normal, yeah.
Yeah, mine's pretty normal as well. I work at a school with kids, so the most exciting / crazy part is that the kids will absolutely flood me in the schoolyard. I can't walk from one building to another without 30 kids shadowing me from the whole way, and they absolutely love that I was on LEGOmasters and have like a million questions.
Well, I guess you're lucky they're not rocking up to school with like the Lego movie Sea Cow and be like, can you build this? Because my parents can't. Basically, I'd love for you guys to take me through the journey. Starting with you, Josh, what made you decide to be a part of LEGOmasters?
Fun fact, I was originally trying to apply for The Amazing Race.
Oh, wow.
It was my dream. And then I was a week late in getting the applications in. And so I was like, well, this looks fun. So I'll give that a go. And I convinced a friend to apply with me. And yeah, we were super surprised to get a phone call before we finished our application. They were super keen to have us get the applications in. And yeah, pretty much went from there and was surprised to get as far as I did.
One of my all-time favorite reality TV moments actually comes from them, other than LEGOmasters, comes from The Amazing Race. I don't know if you ever got to see the watermelon trebuchet.
I knew you were going to say that.
Yep.
Man, seeing that lady cop a full watermelon to the face. Mwah!
It's TV magic.
There's no producer that could have set that up the way that played out. Man, what a good time. So, obviously, the show's over. Everyone knows how it went. You guys come third, but I've got to say, watching that final episode, you were amongst perhaps the strongest teams that have been in the show's history. So that's obviously got to sugarcoat a little bit of coming third, but making it to the final night, that is any reality TV contestant's dream. However, you guys held your own. How did it feel? Like, was it daunting? Surely.
Oh, it was pressurized, to say the least. And we knew we were up against some tough competition. But once you're there, you just got to give it a crack, right? You've just got to go with your strength. I think we built in total for about 147 hours. So we had a lot of street cred that we built up over the show. So we felt comfortable that we were playing with the big boys, that we could bring something in our style that would kind of be competitive.
But then you said street cred, referring to building Lego, and you just totally lost any that you legitimately had. I've got to say, each week, someone pulled out something. It must have been scary. I don't know if it was as it was portrayed as much. However, each week, it would be someone builds something incredible, and you're like, oh no, they are going to win. And then Brickman would be like, this brick's blue, and I like purple. And that would be the deciding factor, because, last year it was like, you've totally forgot to clear all these bricks that you didn't use off of the build, or, there was some kind of slip up, whereas you guys seem to have stepped up in quality so much that it was like, you face the table this way, and I like it this way. So how did it feel? The weeks that you won, be honest, did you call it, or were you still scared? Did you know you were going to win?
Oh, I think there were definitely some weeks where we were like, we could have this, and you kind of look around the room, and you without, I guess, bragging about your own ability, you kind of go, oh yeah, I think this actually is in contention to win. But honestly, the difference between first and last, like you said, was marginal, and it came down to those minuscule things that Brickman was judging, which would decide whether you were the top or whether you were going home.
Yeah. Well, because I know if I was one of the contestants, particularly on your team, the week of the 3DR, when you guys did the Bull Rider, they would have to edit me out of that episode, because just looking at your build, I would have been walking from table to table of the other contestants and just flipping the bird in the face of everyone else and be like, yeah, see it? Oh, what are you building? Oh, that's a nice little, la-di-da. I would be so insufferable. And needless to say, that's why I'm not a part of the show. The only reason. Not because I have no skills whatsoever when it comes to Lego. Run us through week to week. How did it feel? Like, how far apart did they... I don't know if you're allowed to say. How far apart did they shoot the competitions? Was it week to week, or...
Pretty much. It took a week to film an episode.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's long by the time you do all the interviews, and they've got to obviously shoot all those Lego models as well. They need a day to do that. So, yeah, there was a bit of downtime that you could kind of regroup and strategize and get ready for the next build. But once you're in there, once you're on the floor, like, it's intense. It's big days of building. It's a lot of pressure. It's, amplified. Like, I thought at the start of the comp, I'm just going to go in there and have a bit of fun with some Lego.
Yeah.
But there's a time clock. There's Brickman coming up and critiquing you. There's 8 cameras around. So, you've got to be on your game for big days.
How did you go with the living arrangements outside of the actual filming schedule? Like, were you like, I can't have a big meal because I got a 24-hour build tomorrow and I don't need to poop? I really need to make sure that there's no toilet breaks whatsoever in tomorrow's build.
Well, the food they cooked was very good. Like, it was incredible at lunchtimes, and I would notoriously overeat and just be like super lethargic for the rest of the day. I'd have like lunch and dessert, and then in the afternoons, like, I feel like having a nap now. Trent, can you finish the build?
Yeah. So it's a 16-hour build. When's nap time in that 16 hours? Have we allocated an hour? What was your favorite build?
I loved the Bull Rider because it was so three-dimensional, and it was literally popping out of the canvas, and it was our strengths. Josh built the Bull, I built the Bull Rider, Josh did all the technical, and it came together to be this one cohesive, nice model that just leapt out. And I think it was what they were looking for. Might have not been as artistic as they might have wanted, but man, it was 3D, and I think it kind of met the brief. So that, for me,
100%.
was my favourite.
Yeah, I think I agree. Mainly because it was probably our biggest and most complete build. Like, it was one where we looked at and we couldn't have added anything more, and it was really large and imposing, and it really hit the brief. And so that's why I think I loved it just as much.
And then we had the birdcage, my personal favourite build of the entire season. It was a roller coaster of reality TV because it honestly looked like you guys weren't going to get there. Halfway through, you realised the cage wasn't working. You had to go back and start again. Man, that was exciting. And you ended up with an amazing thing. Then it was off balance, and you decided, time to build another cat. And I've got to say, highlight of that build was the bird poo.
Yeah, that's why it's a Josh special, adding the
Yep.
bird poo.
Yep.
A few little details, always nice. But that second cat, and I still remember that conversation where we're like, Brickman was sort of having a bit of a go at us that we wouldn't even have time to build one cat. Because he was saying, full cat is about a 16-hour build. And
We're talking a life-size house cat,
Right.
which is, ours was a bit smaller, but he was kind of implying that those shapes are hard. the structure is hard. Like, to pull that off is going to be very difficult, is what he was getting at.
And when we had the idea with a couple of hours to go to build that second cat, can we do it? Let's give it a try. That was enough to get us the win. I think the fact that he's gone, you can't build a single cat, and we've gone given him 2 cats. That was the clincher, I reckon, that got us that win.
It was weird that you went outside and keyed his car afterwards as well. Tell me I can't build 2 cats. Who did you guys, obviously there was a few other SA contestants. Who did you guys bond with the most on the show?
Oh, honestly, we bonded with everybody. We became friends with every other contestant. There was no animosity between any other teams, no bickering. Everyone wanted to hang out with everyone. We honestly just got along with everyone. I think we probably grew closer to people like Jen and Jody and Andrew and Damien just because they were there longer.
Yep.
So we had more time to hang out with them. And particularly
Such
Andrew
a humble
and Damien.
brag. Beautiful.
But even Jay and Starney, we went on a road trip with them down to the 12 Apostles and actually went into Geelong and checked out Pop Culture, which is like a massive toy retailer in Australia.
Because you needed 4ths and 5ths of all the toy lines.
I did, yeah. I was running low on some of those, those 4th type figures. So we'd go out and do these really cool day trips with people, and go to the museum and go to movies. So we hung out with everyone. But as Josh said, the longer you got into it, and as the numbers declined, obviously you spent more time with the last contestants.
Yeah.
And is it like you think, well, I know you're looking at me, you think sporting, so this is the reference. Is it like a football camp where you do the training, you play the game, and outside you do not mention football? But then, did you guys just constantly talk about Lego when you weren't part of filming? Or
we talked about it a lot.
It was always a topic. And if it wasn't Lego, as in the bricks, it was about what happened during the day and how to break it down and analyze it. And obviously there were things that were going on that people kind of wanted to talk about, just get out and work through any issues they may have had.
Yeah.
But, there were times where I'd do a massive build and I didn't want to touch a Lego brick. I didn't want to go back and build a set in my apartment. It was just cleanse the mind, get out, have a few drinks, and just kind of forget about what we've been doing during the day.
Now, I've got to say, producers must think that you, Trent, are a dream because you are the world's worst poker player on earth because you wear every emotion you have on your sleeve. And I did say this. We spoke on Toy Power Podcast last week when you got on the show and they were really flying the toy collector flag. I was like, it's so good to see one of us portrayed in a cool way, because when we started collecting toys, it was not cool. It was, I had to hide it from my mates. It was like, better put my turtles in my cupboard, and it felt really weird. You really came across, you were in a few different magazines and stuff. We'll talk about that. A few different magazines and stuff, celebrating your toy collection. I saw you on the morning show with Carl, talking your toy collection as well. And I was like, it's so good to see how positive we're portrayed. Then the Star Wars episode and the Stormtroopers walked out and you did the nerdiest scream in the history of television. And I was like, you are going to ruin this for all of us. We were finally getting treated as people, especially as a ginger toy collector. I was like, we are people. And finally we're getting our moment to shine. And you almost...
I did all that hard work. Yeah, look, it was a lot of excitement. And I tell you what is about that Star Wars episode that made it so exciting, that I think comes across on screen, was that I had ruled it out categorically that LEGOmasters wouldn't be able to get the license, one, to go to Disney and go, hey, can we do this thing called Star Wars on this little show that we've got, but also to go to Lego, which is the biggest toy company in the world, and get approval to do something Lego themed. I just thought it was impossible.
It was even in our contract saying that we weren't allowed to infringe on anything that Lego had done before. Indiana Jones, Star Wars, Harry Potter. We weren't allowed to touch any of that. So that's why we ruled it out.
Yeah, so to actually...
It's Disney and LucasArts. It's the top of
the
mountain.
It's crazy. So I don't think I got fully excited until Hamish, midway through, said, you're actually going to be building a Star Wars vehicle today. And that's when I knew it was real. I thought it was going to, some Ashton Kutcher was going to jump out and do some punk thing. But no, I mean, and that was a legitimate excitement from just not expecting it in the slightest.
Oh, it definitely showed. And it was very cool. It didn't look losery at all. Good job. Do you guys miss it?
I do. I miss the people and the atmosphere that was going around, because every day
so
on
we're not
set-
good enough for you.
No, I'm just...
Oh, okay.
This is reliving it, being here with you, Dave, but the cast is one thing, but the crew as well. Like, there's about 70 people that make LEGOmasters work that you don't see on the screen, or you see glimpses of them. But they are such wonderful people, super energetic, super good at what they do, super passionate, and just fun to hang around.
And shout out to the friend of the show and friend of Apocalypse Wow, Andrew Shanks, that was a part of the Star Wars. I believe he did the editing and stuff.
He did the editing.
And that was was it the highest rated show other than news? Like,
pretty much.
Something crazy?
Yep, yep.
Awesome. So much fun. Did you guys... It's so insane. Like, as a kid, Lego is the be-all, end-all of fun, and there's no winners. Everyone knows that, like, it used to boil my blood. I'd be playing with Lego, and the two things that used to bother me, my dad would come in. Firstly, he'd refer to it as Legos, which technically, given that it was all different sets mixed together, I guess it was Legos. But he'd ask me, "You're winning?" And I'm like, it's Lego, Dad. No one wins. It's like saying, "You're winning Minecraft?" It's like, Dad, it's creative. But did you guys think, well, there's no way that you could have grown up thinking, being kids playing with Lego, go, one day I'm going to be competing on one of the biggest television shows ever, playing with toys as an adult. Like, you lived the dream. You guys lived our dream as kids.
It doesn't cross your mind at all. The biggest thing I had in my memory banks was basically going to those Lego exhibitions in the department stores that they would put on, once a year, a couple of times a year. You'd go through a department store, see all these incredible models, and then you'd be like dumped in this big Lego store at the end, and you'd just be bugging your parents to buy you a set. That was the closest thing I thought that you could do as an adult, was to build those models. And it was actually my year 12 ambition to become a Lego builder. I wrote it in my yearbook as the thing I wanted to do. So this is kind of...
so you've always been cool.
I'm just, living the dream now. But look, this is the closest thing I've got to doing something with Lego professionally or semi-professionally. As an actual legitimate thing, rather than just kind of like playing with it in my room.
Yeah, it's definitely something I never expected or would ever have thought would happen. So the fact that we were on the show, let alone making it to finals week, it just blew my mind. Like, it was just incredible. I can't even put it into words how cool it was.
Now, Trent, also, did you find it difficult to panic sell your full impressive collection, should I say, of Lego Friends? Because everyone knows that you were the Lego Friends guy before the show started. And as soon as the show started, all of a sudden, Trent's not the Lego Friends guy. You stop wearing all your Lego Friends pajamas and stuff like that. And also, if you refer to anyone... If you refer to anyone on the show as Lego Friends, is that like the biggest backhanded compliment? Because everyone knows Lego Friends sucks. But Lego's awesome. And it's not pronounced Lego. That's the next issue that we'll be addressing. You both said it. I saw it myself. You owe me $6 because we did have an agreement when you first got on.
Correct.
That every time you said Lego on the show, you'd have to give me $1 of your prize money. So
you counted 6 times.
Yep, 6 times. But they keep re-showing it.
So does that count as more than 6?
I just kept skipping back on the 9 Now app. So you owe me like infinity dollars. Now, I thought, obviously you guys competed together. The world needs to know. It's like when Ryu and Ken in Street Fighter, they train together and they're on the same side, but everyone wants to know who the winner is out of the two. So...
Oh, here we go.
During the first few songs this evening, you guys are both going to be building the Lego City spaceship inspired by NASA astronauts in space, opposed to underwater astronauts. I guess it's lucky they put that on the box. So you guys have got identical boxes. I was so tempted to open yours and just remove like 4 pieces and reseal it. However, I would really like to know who is the genuine Lego master out of you two. This is to crown the DVG Lego master of all time. That is something that no one else on even the Dutch version, any other version of Lego Master, there hasn't been the DVG Lego Master.
It's true.
So it's going to be crowned.
Is there a trophy?
No, there's no trophy. It's just a title. It's much like being the winner at Lego, because there's no winner in Legos, but there is a DVG Lego Master. We're going to find out right now as we go to the music. This is DVG. It is 100.5 WOW FM. We have a crowned winner. I will be putting the video up very shortly on our Facebook. So head over to Dave's Video Graveyard on WOW FM on Facebook, and you can watch the video, which is sure to get copyright striked and muted very shortly because I didn't turn the music down. But it is worth the watch. Congratulations to the greatest Lego Builder DVG award ever. It changes every time you say it. That's how unique this award is. Congratulations, Trent. How did you go? How did you feel?
Oh, I felt like I was back on set, really. The pressure, the person looming over me shouting out to build quicker.
The ultra charismatic host.
Yeah, it was hard to distinguish between you and Haim. But, yeah, look, good. I felt that all that experience of building all those sets over the last 30-odd years came to play for that win. It was all worth it.
So no regrets. You don't regret missing the prize money now that you have that title.
Exactly. This is what everyone really wanted to win, and Alex and Jackson, $100,000. What have they got?
Where you at? You've got till the end of the show to get here and try to beat the crown. So you guys both built a Lego spaceship. What did you think?
It's a really cool spaceship, actually.
This is super fun.
It's got like a little satellite that goes in the back, and it flips in and stuff. Really cool.
Swooshable?
Very swooshable. Yeah, this is something that I find, you're given all those bricks in the brick pit, to actually build something that meets like the design aesthetic of a Lego model is really, really hard to do. And there's just something about how those designers put these sets together.
Well, I've heard that it takes like a year and a half from design idea to shelf for a Lego model. So they are refining these things like heck.
Yeah.
Well, because I often wonder at what point do you justify engineering a new piece that doesn't exist for a build? Because, when you get certain things that have the one-off designed piece that only fits that set.
Well, again, fun fact, I was listening to an interview last night with one of the Lego designers, and she was saying that they will go into their like stash of bricks, and they'll literally cut up pieces and manufacture like a fake model of a piece if they need it, or they'll 3D print it, and they'll basically go, well, is a small child going to be able to, like, what level of build are we going for here? Is a small child or an adult going to be able to put this together with these pieces, or can we make a new piece that's going to be a lot easier? It's super interesting.
So if it was like, this is like a super technical design, they'd be like, just leave it with the 6 pieces that it takes to equate that bit. Or for a more simpler build, here's this fully made. Because I remember I had an X-Wing back in the day, and most of the shape of the cockpit, same with Space Police, the cockpit and the hatch door, like the green hatch door, just 2 pieces. And so it's like, well, you're pretty limited. You can either build a really super futuristic crocodile, or it is the cockpit of a spaceship. So, yeah. Are you guys sick of talking about Lego yet?
I'm happy to talk. This is the thing. I can talk toys all day long. So
yeah, I can't. Yeah, I don't think I can get enough either. I love talking about it.
Awesome. Well, luckily, we're not talking about either now, because it's time to talk about movies. It is the bread and butter of DVG here. You guys have each picked your 5 favorite films ever. How was it narrowing down? How'd you go?
Man, that was hard.
It's painful, but look, it's got to be done. And I had a set of criteria that I applied to this list. So I'll caveat my choice with that. They're films I've got to be able to watch over and over again.
This is funny. That's the exact same thought I had. I was sitting there going through my list and going, would I sit down and rewatch this movie over and over? And then that's how I decided what my top 5 were going to be.
Yep.
I think I cut one off the list that I was disappointed that I had to drop, but was pretty happy with the 5.
There's definitely films that are on the cutting room floor of this list that I'm just devastated about, but that's the choice you got to make on a top 5.
Because I love pretending that like it's the easiest concept ever just to come up with your favorite, but I change like the wind, honestly.
Exactly.
It's like I'll watch the worst movie ever and I'll have so much fun. Like just last week I revisited 2001 Jake Gyllenhaal film Bubble Boy, and I'm like, I think that's my favorite movie ever. And then a day passes, I'm like, oh, that is such a bad movie. So it's so subjective. But I'm so glad you guys are here to celebrate your 5 favorite of all time. Starting there, we heard a little bit of dubstep because we're all young. We're not in our 30s, and it's not really sad that we played that. We heard Yub Nub from 1983's Return of the Jedi, the third and what many people consider worst of the original trilogy. However, they're just wrong because it is wall-to-wall quality with the original trilogy in my opinion, that's a word. Why did you pick Return of the Jedi?
Oh, look, I love all the Star Wars films, but for me...
Why didn't you mention that on LEGOmasters?
I think the squeal encapsulated that sentiment. But for me, Jedi ties up a story arc, and it's really about the redemption of Anakin Skywalker and how Luke brings him back to the light side at the end. And that, the gravitas of, I guess, that as a final confrontation. Luke essentially puts his lightsaber down in that battle until he's ultimately threatened at the end of it and sort of fights to save his father. So that emotional weight is a big part of why I guess I put that up at the top of my list. But it's wall-to-wall action. It starts off with the Jabba's palace, breaking Han out of the carbonite, goes on to, Dagobah and ultimately to that Death Star battle in the skies above the Death Star. And Palpatine just taunting also, like a smug emperor does.
It sets such a precedence in the sense that I cannot think, obviously I wasn't born yet, but I cannot think in film history another time where the good guy got to rock awesome black clothing. Because black has always been kind of the image and the sleek look of a bad guy in any film, particularly the Empire in the Star Wars trilogy. However, seeing Luke rock back up, he's got his new hand. Of course, also in the context of coming off of Empire, which was such a down note that it finished with. It was considered the worst sequel of all time when Empire was released, which I love that fact because I think it's the second best sequel of all time. This film also got a lot of hate, which I have learned over the years. No one hates Star Wars more than Star Wars fans.
Yep.
There is no fan service, well, there is no fandom on Earth that is more toxic and more I guess you'd say completely unself-aware, and they are absolute haters. And originally with Jedi, it was the Ewoks.
Yep.
Because they found it too kiddie-friendly and just pandering to children. And it's like, hey, it's a movie, guys. Won't you shut up and... Yeah, eat some more Doritos.
I mean, I think if that's the biggest criticism of the film, people kind of not need to revisit the film because I think, yeah, they're small, cute creatures, but look at the tremendous marketing appeal of them. They're wonderful. But I have to just take you back to a couple of key scenes and a couple of key stop motion animation that was done. The Rancor, how good is the Rancor and how gripping is that sequence where Luke is fighting for his life?
Well, after we got the specialized version, I have to say hashtag not my Rancor because my Rancor had a massive black line around the entire thing.
Exactly.
Because it was, stop motion. What a great movie. I don't think any Star Wars kid didn't imagine a speeder bike when they got on their push bike after enjoying the Star Wars films. Do you prefer the blue lightsaber or the green lightsaber?
I'm a green man myself. I do love a bit of green lightsaber action. I think it was just the fact we saw a new color. Just that feeling of, oh my God, he's built his own lightsaber and he's gone green. And it just looked so cool. And the other call out, I think, is Jabba the Hutt. What a great character. I mean, we pretend the special edition doesn't exist and we never got a CGI Jabba in A New Hope. There's all this talk of Jabba and Boba Fett getting Han Solo because he's, done something to a shipment and he's got to face Jabba the Hutt, the big crime lord, and he's a giant slug. Like, that's just so Star Wars right there.
And I also love, I don't know if it was deliberate, but obviously George Lucas was the creator, but directed by Richard Manquine. I don't know if it was deliberate, but nothing is better to me because I'm somewhat of a troll. Nothing is cooler than setting up what the fans consider the greatest character of all time being Boba Fett, and then just giving him the most pathetic death. And I thought it was so hilarious because he was my favorite character, and obviously seeing it for the first time, you just don't care because you're just enjoying Star Wars. But I got again because when J.J. Abrams brought along Captain Phasma, I was like, the coolest looking character in the whole new trilogy. Same thing.
Yep.
It's like, here you go. Here's a really inconsequential death. What about yourself, Josh? What do you rate? Were you a Star Wars fan in any sense of the word?
Look, although it looked like I was on the show, I did have a few people comment and just say, oh, I didn't know you were such a Star Wars fan from the show. And it obviously came across that way, but I really did not know much about Star Wars at all. Still don't. Have seen the movies. Or I actually don't even think I've seen all the new ones, but I've seen the first trilogy. And yeah, I like them. Can't say that I'm a diehard fan. I think, like you said, you're either a Star Wars fan that loves it, a Star Wars fan that hates it, or someone who's just like, yeah, I'm one of those people.
That's me with the Harry Potter franchise. I'm like, I deliberately get all the names wrong, which is what my dad used to do with Star Wars.
Severus Snape.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think it's only fair that we now talk about one of Josh's picks. This is DVG, and let's go with a little bit of this. It is 100.5 WOWFM, Dave's Video Graveyard. It is the Lego Master special. We are talking with Josh and Trent from this year's Lego Master, picking their favourite films of all time. And Josh's first pick this evening is 1987's The Princess Bride. What a fantastic choice. Directed by Rob Reiner. Why did you pick this film?
It has a lot of childhood memories for me. I remember watching it quite a lot as a kid. And just the ridiculousness of the story and there's so many fun elements in it that just really like play to the nonsense of the whole film, and it's just really good. The cool story of him just trying to like save this person the whole way through the story while being chased by the bad guys. Like it was just such an awesome story. I've
always had such a reverence for like all the family films in like the 80s and 90s. They really leaned hard on a lot of the fantasy. So you got the likes of The Dark Crystal, The Labyrinth,
yes,
all those films. And then this one is almost the most bittersweet of all of them. But I recently visited it for the first time with my family, with my kids. And it had that effect still to this day. Much like actually a lot of the films on both your lists this evening. It's like, I remember what they meant to me when I saw them the first time. And then I got to revisit them with my kids and see that, yeah, it still holds up. It still has that effect. And this movie, it's so funny. Much like Fred Savage's character in this film, it does start out, and both my sons were very skeptical of, oh, what's this? It's called Princess. I don't want to watch this.
Exactly like the kid at the start of the story.
Yeah. And by the end of the film, they're like, oh, is there more? Is there? Because my son, Ollie, growing up with a movie pirate as a father, he never understood the sequence of, and much like binge, the way binge culture is now, he never understood the sequence of free-to-air television and stuff. So whenever like Adventure Time or something would be on free-to-air TV, an episode would finish.
Yeah.
And it'd be like, all right, mate, time to change the channel. He's like, oh, no, there's another one on. It's like, no, mate,
Right.
that's not how
it
works. And every movie, because so many franchises now, we'll watch like The Princess Bride. He's like, can we watch the next one?
Yeah.
I'm like, mate, I have
This
some
is it.
bad news for you. And at the moment, we're revisiting Pirates of the Caribbean because I've been trying to find something that can blow my kids' minds the way like The Princess Bride did ours. It's definitely not Pirates of the Caribbean, that's for sure. The first one's great, and the second one's...
Yeah, it kind of goes downhill after
Yeah,
that.
100%. Do you still revisit this film?
Oh, yeah, like I said before, all the films that I ended up putting on my list, I will revisit quite often. And yeah, it's one of those ones that I have on DVD at home. We'll watch it occasionally when I'm feeling a bit nostalgic. Just love the nonsense of it. It's very, very funny.
And this is one film that every time, because there's so many famous character actors in this movie, they come up in so many things that are a lot more grittier. But to me, they'll always be from like The Princess Bride. Like Mandy Patinkin particularly does a lot of really gritty television dramas, whether it be like, I'm sure he's on one of the SVUs, and he was on Homefront or Homeland, one of those shows.
Yep, Homeland.
And as soon as he comes on, I'm like, I got to revisit the Princess Bride. And Chris Sarandon as the bad guy is fantastic in this. I knew him from Fright Night as the vampire. Such a good movie.
Billy
and
Crystal makes a little cameo.
Billy
towards the
Crystal
end.
is fantastic. You hear him there in the trailer, and
Yeah.
it's like, I know who that is. And I also love the story because I'm a mature adult that Rob Reiner said in an interview a couple of years ago when they did an anniversary special that while they were filming this, they had to cut a scene. Well, they had to cut because mid-scene, Andre the Giant just did like a 16-second fart. And Rob Reiner's like, are you all right? And he's like, I am now, boss. And that was my favorite story of the entire film just because it's so childish and I'm a manly grown-up. Yeah, dude, this is such a fantastic choice. Did you enjoy the likes of The Labyrinth and all the other fantasy films, or was this the one?
I don't even think I've actually seen The Labyrinth.
Wow.
I think I've seen some of it. I don't know if I've seen the full movie, but it's one of those ones that I've always had it on my list. I'm like, I need to watch that one day.
It's the closest to The Princess Bride that I can think of.
Definitely loved The Dark Crystal as a kid as well.
That scared me as a kid.
Yeah, there was definitely some elements of that as a child, but like I just loved that one as well. It was good.
Awesome. Well, that's a fantastic choice. We might roll back into the music as we continue this special here on DVG. It is Dave's Video Graveyard on 100.5 WOWFM. There we had a little bit of metal because it is taking off the John Williams theme. We are talking about 1989's Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, the final Indiana Jones film in my house. That is the law and the law of this show.
Exactly.
There'll be no references to any lead-line fridges or anything. Why did you pick this film, Trent?
This is one of those films I did see at the cinema. So I
Wow.
do recall seeing this.
I wasn't even born.
Damn, it makes me feel old. But this film, whenever it comes on TV and I just happen to flick to it, I am forced to watch it to the end. And to me, the pacing of this film is just so wonderful. The charisma between Henry Jones and Harrison Ford as Indiana is just so good. There's so many great moments between them. Like, you know, they're in the Nazi castle and, you know, the dad's basically blowing the fire. Indy's blowing the fire and is making it bigger. And the dad's like, you know, what's going on? And he's got this inferno. Just you know, shooting the plane's tail and just the antics between them.
Yes.
Is
the
wonderful.
Seagulls.
Yeah, the
is
seagulls.
Probably my favourite scene in that entire film. I also recommend anyone checking out davesvideograveyard.com. Check out the podcast we did on this.
Yeah.
Not for sensitive ears, but it is what I thought about it. Also, another fantastic scene in that is when the Nazi lady is thanking Indiana Jones for the night they spent together. At which point, Senior is also like reacting because you find out that she had slept with both of them, and that they both thought they were the only one, and just the despisement and the anger between them when they find out that they were both with the same woman. It's just, what a great film. And I've got to say, it is such a shame that they made a sequel following this, because it is the most perfect tied up wrapping of a story. Even though they weren't always like, because, you know, they jump back and forth with the franchise. This just, they literally rode off into the sunset at the end of this film. 1989, though, what a year for film as well. Obviously, Josh has said he wasn't born yet, so that's really disappointing. What year were you born in?
92.
92.
Yes.
Wow, you were born the year that Terminator 2 came out. That's really crazy for me to think of.
I think we've had this discussion, Dave, before about scenes in Spielberg films or scenes in those films we grew up with, where there's this one horrific scene that you always remember. And, you know, if you think about the first Indiana Jones, you've got the face melting sequence at the end when the Ark of the Covenant is opened up. But I remember being freaked out by a sequence where, you know, the main bad guy basically drinks from the wrong cup, you know, and turns into this monster, just basically turns to dust, ages, you know. And I just remember seeing that sequence. And I think there's a bit where he grabs onto the girl and is, you know, just basically decomposing. And that just freaked me out.
And Industrial Light and Magic were helmed for the special effects for this. So you know it was the best that was going to look at the time. So they mixed a practical puppet with some actual in-camera special effects. It looks fantastic. And I've got to say, other than there is a scene where a plane turns around a Zeppelin, like a blimp, looks terrible. But the rest of the film stands up. And it's so funny because I tried to sell this one to my kids as well, and they watched it and loved it. However, you compare it to, I don't know if you've seen the CGI Tintin film.
Yes.
You compare it to that, and it's like, it's the blueprint of that film, where it's because that's obviously modern day technology. They can do visually anything they want. And it really makes this look, you know, quite
dated.
Yeah. Like, not so much dated, but just limited in what they could present on screen.
But there's a huge nostalgia with that, I think. Even though I wasn't born way back then, but like I love those films, and I particularly love this one. And this one definitely crossed my mind to be on my list, but obviously, like, unfortunately, fell off. But it just has a lot of nostalgia seeing this old style of graphics and everything. It has a lot of memories.
And it's funny because Steven Spielberg has always talked that he grew up loving the 30s serials, like all the adventure comics and all that kind of stuff. So this was nostalgic for him whilst making it, because it was like, I'm making something I loved in my childhood. And it's much like when George Lucas was making the prequel trilogy. He had a nostalgia for like a sewerage farm, and because then he just made 3 absolute crap movies and just had this built-in sense of nostalgia for the prequel trilogy because they're absolute crap. Man, this movie is so good, and like you said, you could not cast better Sean Connery as Indiana Jones's dad, because obviously he'd established himself as the be-all end-all of heroic but intellectual heroes, because obviously he's a professor. And I always love, every time I rewatch Last Crusade, I pick up on something I never noticed before. And the last watch that was quite recent, there is the bit where Indiana Jones is getting away from the Nazis with the motorbike, and he's killing a lot of them with guns on his way out. But then, and every time he does, his dad's really upset and disgusted that he's killing people with, like, he's like, look what you did, look what you've done. But then he jousts with the with one of the boom gates
things. Yep.
And his dad is so proud because it's like such a that's got that's noble. That's a noble kill, that one. And I just love picking up on stuff like that. But fantastic choice. Do you like all of the films? All of the 3?
I do like all
Let's
3,
not
and this
mention
is
the 4th.
no, we don't talk about the 4th. I do love all 3, and for different reasons. But this is just for me the pick of the bunch. There's so many comedic moments that come off so well. You know, like when they're basically talking about the guy that's, you know, he's got a head start and he's probably already got the Grail by now, and you see him kind of bumbling his way through. Just the timing on the comedy and the way the actors work together. It's got John Rhys Davies in it as well, who I'm a big fan of. So yeah, it's just action-packed and fun the whole way through. This is an action-adventure film. And it's set in that sort of, with that, World War element, or in that era, that just adds something to it. Like you said, Spielberg's dream sort of genre or style of film, Zeppelins, planes.
And at the start of the
tanks.
90s, it's also the quintessential, because you had the likes of Kevin Costner and Harrison Ford. They were your dad's actors. So it's like, The Fugitive and all these films. Your dads loved all of Harrison Ford's movies like that, Witness, Frantic, all those movies. This was the meeting of two worlds, because it was like, no, that's Indiana Jones, that's Han Solo and everything, Dad. And then you'd be like, oh, he's in all those garbage Tom Clancy movies that you have to sit through. And this is the perfect amalgamation of both of those. Now, we're going to jump back into some music before the next choice from Josh. This next movie, I believe it's the first time it's been picked that I didn't pick it here on DVG. So we'll go with a timeless classic taken from that film. This is 100.5 WOW FM. It is 100.5 WOW FM. There we heard from the seminal classic MC Hammer's You Can't Touch This, a song that I had a doll and a tape of. That's how popular it was. Had my MC Hammer doll, and it come with the tape cassette single of this. You have picked, Josh, 2002's absolute classic. I'm surprised it didn't win every Oscar that year. You've picked Kung Pao Enter the Fist. Why did you pick this movie?
I think I've realised there's a theme with the movies that I've picked, and they're all nonsense. A lot of ridiculousness, and this one, it takes the cake for hilarity for me. Like, I will literally laugh constantly through this movie, non-stop. Like, the one-liners that come out of this are every other second. It's just so ridiculous, so funny, and could watch it over and over again on repeat.
And one thing I've always loved about this movie, the comedy isn't as strong as the effort they've put in. Like, they would have spent like months and months to film and cut, and because they've CGI'd into a movie. The amount of work for just a terrible joke is so beautiful. And one of my favorite scenes of all time is the Chosen One has seen the bad guy, who is indestructible, put on a display of his power in the middle of town, where 4 guys attack him with sticks, and he blocks them all, takes all the hits, and they like beat him up like much like a Shaolin monk type thing. He then throws them all off. So he hires 4 guys to come at him with sticks, and the first few hits knock him unconscious. And so then there's, much like Team America with the vomit scene, there is a scene of them hitting with the sticks to the point of exhaustion, where the 4 people are like, is he going to throw us off now? He's like, I don't know. And he goes, maybe we should lie on top of him. And so then the scene is just them all carefully lying on top of him. It is so amazing, man. I cannot believe, for the first time in DVG history, this film has been picked.
I'm proud that I was the first one to pick it.
This movie is an absolute classic. Directed by Steve Odekirk. Many people may know him. He did a film called High Strung, which was the first acting role of Jim Carrey. They stayed good friends. And he also directed and wrote Ace Ventura: When Nature Calls, which has the world's greatest film scene in the history of the world.
Also very high on my list, but didn't make the top 5. Would be my top 10 probably.
I still remember vividly. We've been talking about, because we love reminiscing about the first time you saw stuff. The same weekend, I got to see the Mortal Kombat film and Ace Ventura: When Nature Calls. The same weekend, I'll never get a run of films that good again in my life. Man, this film is so... We were just telling Trent off air about it, and I'm excited to watch it again. I find myself quite often, like when I sometimes I'll edit like sound effects and stuff from the film into the songs for tonight's show. This is a film where I couldn't, because I went to like pull a clip off YouTube and I'm like, oh, I've just watched 20-minute compilation and I haven't done anything. This movie is so bad it's amazing.
Yeah, so bad that it's amazing.
And is it still constantly referenced with your group of friends?
Oh, we quote this movie uncontrollably all the time. Like, it's just so easy to quote, and there's so many ridiculous one-liners that they always crop up.
This film was also, I have history with it being my saving grace, because in 2003, I want to say, we had a bit of an event, because I was an internet movie pirate at the time in the early days of the sense. I downloaded Hulk, the Ang Lee, Eric Bana Hulk film. I told all our group of friends, I'm like, oh, we should watch it. One of my friends put his hand up and said, listen, my parents are going out of town Friday night. We'll get the boys around and we'll all watch Hulk together. So it became this, this touchstone event at school. We're all going to go watch, at my mate Casey's, we're going to watch Hulk. We show up, I put the disc in, we start watching it, things are going good. He turns into Hulk, and there is a scene where Hulk jumps into the desert, lands next to a tank, picks the tank up by the turret, spins it, and throws it over the horizon. Anyway, suddenly there's a big splash of sand on the ground. A tank with no one else in the scene lifts up, spins around, and flies off. Turns out I had downloaded an incomplete proof print that had none of the special effects completed. It was just like someone at the studio had leaked like the unfinished film. So I became an absolute pariah at that point, because I was just like, what have you done? Like, this was our Friday night and you ruined it. The following week I brought Kung Pao to the group, and that was my saving grace.
Well, it had to be.
If it wasn't for Kung Pao the following week, I don't think they'd ever allow me to watch a movie with them ever again. Man, this movie still to this day comes up in day-to-day thought. Like, honestly, every time a reference remotely relating to this film comes up, I think of it. They promised a sequel at the end of the film that never eventuated, which is so sad.
Disappointing.
And Trent, I'm just so excited for you to get to watch this film for the first time.
I just love to know what the budget for this is. The way you've described it, and I just literally want to know, because it doesn't taint...
$10?
Let's have a look. Talk amongst yourselves.
Are you looking on the budget for it? Let's see how...
in my files of my brain, my memory.
Surely it cannot be much, because it they would have spent a lot of time editing, and there's a little bit of extra CGI they added in, and obviously green screening the main character in. But honestly...
Who wants to have a guess?
17 mil?
$10 million, and it made 17.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah. But it is a cult classic. I cannot speak highly enough about this film. What a great choice. Unfortunately, you're going to have to step it up, Trent, because that is a fantastic choice. You are losing the choices this evening.
Lucky I built that Lego spaceship. Otherwise, I'd be in trouble.
I didn't realise Doc Emmett Brown was going to be here this evening, because clearly you are living in the past. This is DVG. It is 100.5 WOWFM. There we heard from Weird Al Yankovic with Jurassic Park, because Trent has gone down the safe path and picked an unknown art house film that no one has ever seen, We are talking about the game changer that is 1993's Jurassic Park. It changed the way movies became events again, much like they did in 1989. We saw photorealistic special effects, just so much amazing stuff going on. Stan Winston involved with the puppet work. It's got some bigwigs, directed by Steven Spielberg. I've listed all these terrible things about it, but why did you pick it, Trent?
Again, another one I saw at the cinema, and this was an experience for me. I can still remember that, kind of the build-up, it's a slow burn, and the pacing of this film, I think a lot of people in the film industry say this has pacing. This is pacing 101 if you want to teach how to build through the film to keep interest and keep things going. But it's sort of like a slow burn as it's revealed, and then that sequence at night when the T-Rex kind of finally appears is so beautifully done. 1993, and the mix between, like you said, puppetry, some of the work done by Stan Winston on that T-Rex, and special effects, CGI when they needed to do it. That mix and that blend is like something more filmmakers should take a leaf out of their book. But this film was just, once it builds up, that sense of adrenaline, that sense of, these kids and Sam Neill running from, just trying to get back to safety. And as the park basically, goes into chaos, as Ian Malcolm predicted with Chaos Theory.
And with this movie, the thing that seemed it was a phenomenon, and as a good example of how big this film was at the time, in 1993, Broken Hill's only movie theater had actually burnt down and was in the state of being totally renovated. The production company for Jurassic Park actually hired out a hall and just had non-stop screenings of Jurassic Park when it released, because it was a worldwide phenomenon at the time. And it was an event. We didn't get a lot of event films after like the late 80s where everything tied in. You couldn't go to any fast food restaurant without getting a tie-in. There was all the merchandising, which I'm sure you know nothing about as a toy collector. And also, what I loved about it was it made adults feel like children. It blew children's minds, because the suspension of disbelief of the dinosaurs you can get over instantly.
Yep.
It's the idea of that destination. Everyone that has seen this film has thought about, what if they went to the island? Like, what would it be like if... In your mind, you can get used to the idea of going to the island.
Yeah.
And, oh man, it is so fantastic in every way. I also love the story of production-wise. I believe it was Phil Tippett was in charge of doing the stop-motion animation, because that was the original conceit of this film, was they were going to do all puppetry and stop-motion for the dinosaurs. While doing it, someone went to Spielberg and said, hey, I can do that with my computer. And I love the idea of Phil Tippett's like, he said in interviews before, he was standing there watching his industry burn to the ground.
Yeah.
At that moment when Spielberg saw what the computer could do, he was like, oh, yeah, no, this is what we have to do. Phil Tippett had the foresight to go, oh, because I've already built all the puppets and stuff, we can actually rig up motion capture to my puppets and do realistic movements with the puppets, which the computer could then render. So he kind of saved on, like, he landed on his feet at the same time. That special effect, that system was then used for the movies like Starship Troopers, with all the arachnids and stuff, where they motion captured puppets to make it look realistic. And it was a real save, because he was about to be out of a job for sure.
Yeah.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I'm glad you could contribute to that.
No, it's good. Like, it's interesting. I mean, yeah, look, that's the way film went, but there is something about stop motion that is so beautiful. For me, for someone who grew up with it, it's such an art form to even watch it. Jason and the Argonauts, right? You watch it and you go, that's a frame by frame.
Harryhausen's, like all that.
Yeah,
it is just so fun to watch. Jason and the Argonauts, the original Clash of the Titans.
Yep.
There's just something so cool about it. Like it has aged, but in an appropriate way. Like it doesn't take away. It's almost charming the way it has aged to this day.
Yeah.
And I've got to say, Spielberg, a lot of people say that he doesn't still have it. However, we on Toy Power Podcast, we did an episode where we reviewed Ready Player One. And the way that sucked my children in and submersed them into this fantastic world and blew their minds was the exact same way the first time I saw Jurassic Park did to me. Did you see this film as a 1-year-old?
Not when I was 1, but I definitely saw it, and it was also in my top probably 10 list of movies. I really loved Jurassic Park again, just completely engrossed in the world and like wanting to go to the theme park, even though it wasn't really in existence. It was just an amazing movie.
And it's a lightning in a bottle film because they've tried over and over again to change the formula, and it's like, don't change the formula, just give us more stories, which they finally realized with the most recent Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom. But I still don't think it has the charm.
No.
And even The Lost World, because they promised T-Rex in San Diego, which we got a little bit in the end of the film, but that movie sucked.
Yeah.
For lack of a better term. Has your kids seen this?
No. I've got a 7-year-old who's not a big movie watcher. He prefers reality TV, like documentaries, more that sort of thing. This would just give him nightmares. So I've got to introduce it to him at the right age. But my youngest, he's going to be raring to go for this. He's only 4 at the moment, so maybe I'll give him another year.
Definitely. That is a fantastic choice. Let's jump back right into it here on DVG. It is 100.5 WOW FM, and Josh has picked the feel-bad hit of the summer from 2006. We are talking Pan's Labyrinth, a very upsetting film, but a very beautiful and visually stunning film. Why did you pick this film?
I think this is probably the only one on my list that isn't like ridiculous, but it has obviously a huge fantasy element to it, and I think I have realized looking at my list that I love a good fantasy film. And the story was just so magical. It was like...
I thought it was weird you were wearing a cape, but...
it is so magical, and it really draws you in because she has all these like tasks to complete. So there's an adventure aspect to it. There's obviously the imminent danger of the stepfather who is a murderous, rampaging, like rebel killer. And this whole world that she just falls into, and you're not knowing whether it's her imagination or whether it's actually happening, whether she's the actual princess that's gone missing from the beginning of the story or whether she's just this random girl. So there's a lot of mystery involved with it and a lot of intrigues. I just love that.
It's got so many levels. And
Yeah.
I remember when Zack Snyder's Sucker Punch came out, it has such a similar narrative, as in you don't know if what you're seeing is the like reality or if it's a thing.
Yeah.
And you find out that it's actually like a coping mechanism, as in they go into this reality to cope with what's happening in real life. And this pulls no punches with Pan's Labyrinth. Like you say, it's very, think a modern take on the Neverending Story type thing. But when you find out that there's stakes in this movie, they definitely let you know. Spoiler alert, you watch a pixie get eaten by a monster right at the start, and it's as visceral as you can imagine. And, oh man, so upsetting, but in an entertaining way. I know that sounds really weird to say, but it's so bleak in so many elements, but it's still entertaining, which is a bad indictment on me as a film watcher. But I remember watching this on a preview tape when I worked at a video store, so I knew nothing about other than the title, and it had subtitles, those yucky things that I'm allergic to.
You had to actually read, Dave.
Yeah, well, I don't know what happened because I can't read, so I don't know anything that happened other than what I saw on screen. But no wonder Del Toro's career just went up and up and up. I even love his Pacific Rim. Like anything he does is visually stunning, even if it's not a fantastic movie. The Shape of Water, he finally got recognized and won an Academy Award for. But man, this movie it's bleak.
Oh, it's got this weird like dark. It's very dark. Like the whole movie is just visually quite dark, but also like the story is very dark as well. So it's got this huge dark element to it, but there's like this glimmer of hope all the way through it, and you're just wanting like the good guys to win, the girls to escape, like the rebels to like win the war or whatever it is. You just want them all to succeed. And it does happen occasionally, but not all the way through the film. So you kind of get a little bit of satisfaction through that. And yeah, it just draws you in the whole way through. I loved it.
Awesome. Have you seen it?
I have seen it. Yeah, I remember not knowing what to expect. I think I knew Guillermo del Toro from Hellboy.
Yep.
I think that came first. And that is quite, it's a comic book film. It's got the visuals, but it's not as dark. And I don't think I was expecting this. Some of the sequences in this are quite visceral, as you say, and quite confronting. And it's a very dark tale. But has those incredible creatures, like the guy that has his eyes on the palms of his hands, that kind of demon thing, you know, over the banquet table, and just the imagination that goes into creating those fantastical characters and bring it to life in the most incredible way.
I remember watching like a featurette or something on YouTube at one point, and it was with Guillermo, and they were talking about the making of and stuff. And he was talking about collaborating with Doug Jones. For those who don't know, Doug Jones plays the Pale Man and the Faun in this. He's very well known for his creature work that he does, like he always portrays. The movie Legion, he plays this ice cream man with really long limbs, and it's nightmare material. However, in this thing, they were talking about it, and Del Toro's like, oh, and I really loved him. We met at one point. He was on they were on a studio lot together, and he goes, Doug was working on Hocus Pocus, because it turns out the kids movie with Bette Midler, Hocus Pocus, there was a zombie character with his mouth sewed shut. I think he's called Billy or something. That is also played by Doug Jones. So he's always played like those really creepy characters. And yeah, to see him play basically the good mystical character and the most evil nightmare material. It's one of those things, as soon as you see the Pale Man, you know that everyone you don't like from school is going to get a tattoo of that. It's like Jared Leto's Joker. As soon as you see someone with that tattoo, you're like, cool choice. Let's not hang out ever. You're the human equivalent of a bumper sticker. I'm not interested. Anyway, that is a great choice. We are almost running out of time, so we might play a few CSAs and come back with 1989's greatest film. This is DVG. It is 100.5 WOW FM. Time to talk about a game changer this evening. There are many films I consider game changers, such as Fight Club come out in 99, and all of a sudden every action macho film had to be quasi-intellectual. The Matrix came out, and all of a sudden every science fiction had to be color-corrected light green. And obviously Jurassic Park came out, everything had to look expensive. Whereas Batman 1989 came out, it changed the way films were marketed. All these tie-in merchandising just wasn't done at the time. The toy lines, the promotion, it became an event. It was a monster, and there's no surprise that it was the biggest film of 1989 because it got the ball rolling. It didn't stop. I've never met a nerd that it wasn't their favorite Batman film. So it is very on brand. Trent, why did you pick this film?
Well, who doesn't like Batman? I grew up loving Batman comics. And really, up until that point, it was all 1966 Adam West, Cesar Romero Batman. That was all I knew. So when this new movie came out, that was the cinema event. Obviously, the marketing was huge. The tie-in promotional work was huge. That was just something we all had to go with. I remember going with friends, to see this film and going to the cinema, just expecting to see probably a fairly, general superhero film. And what I got was so unexpected in terms of the dark take. Watching Joker electrocute someone with a gag, buzzer on his hand as he's dancing around, and the guy turns into like a skeleton crisp. Just the craziness of that character almost took the shining light, I think, away from Batman. Like he was
100%.
He was the character that just stole the show. But casting Michael Keaton as well, a lot of controversy at the time. I think he'd just come off Mr. Mum. So it was a very interesting choice. If the internet was around, there would have been, hashtags and...
there was letter writing campaigns trying to get him kicked off because they were like, he was too short, he can't act, he's a comedic actor. It was all there, but obviously they were all wrong because this film is pretty flawless, and I'm seeing it through rose-tinted glasses because it's one of my favorite films of all time. But it is so... I think the perfect sum up of Batman 89 is in the movie Bad Neighbors with Seth Rogen. There's a scene where Zac Efron and Seth Rogen are talking because Seth Rogen's the older neighbor. And they're like finally becoming friends. He's like, hey, who's Batman? And Seth Rogen's like, Keaton, easily Keaton. And he's like, no, it's not. And Zac Efron's like, no, it's Christian Bale. And it's that perfect like divide of age for a lot of people where it's like Christian Bale's Batman or, well, in your case, George Clooney's Batman. But, man, this film, it spawned 3 sequels. And I think only half of another one was, well, 1.5 sequels were good, and the rest were absolutely abominable, if that's a word. Which
Yeah.
probably is.
It's tough because the legacy did decline, but as a film, stylistically, it's so beautiful. That Batmobile, that Batplane, the set design, there's the creation of Gotham, how dirty and dark it is brilliant.
And it informed a lot of what moving forward, like Batman in the animated series, which is another thing that our generation holds very high. The Gotham from that is pretty much the Gotham taken from this.
Yeah. And just some wonderful sequences. One of those films that I have to be able to rewatch, and I can put it on, and I can always find something that I enjoy in this, whether it's Jack Nicholson and his acting, or it's the set design, or it's the dialogue, or the visuals, or the special effects. There's something brilliant about it.
This is the first time I ever set foot in a cinema was to watch Batman, and this was one of the first Blu-rays that I watched, and I'll tell you what, that Batwing does not hold up in Blu-ray. The rest of the film's pretty fantastic. As soon as it drops up in front of the moon, because that was clearly a trailer shot, man, that looks bad now. But it is still such a fantastic film. I hold this up with the likes of 1990s Ninja Turtles, like all those films from our childhood. You're sitting there with your arms folded. You need to show some respect. We are loving Batman this evening, and it's literally Superman's birthday today, and we're still loving Batman. The first appearance of Superman ever was on today in like 32 or something insane like that.
38.
38. Oh, sorry, but still, Batman's
39.
better.
Yeah.
Yeah. Who's Batman for you?
Yeah.
Ben Affleck.
Like I've seen the old school Batman films, but not enough to differentiate one from the other. So I liked them. I couldn't say I loved them. I'm sure if I watched them back now, I'd be like, oh yeah, they were excellent films. But I haven't seen this one in such a long time that, like I said, I couldn't even differentiate it between any of the other older ones that were made.
Do you have a favorite superhero? Other than yourself?
I don't know. Probably not. I do like superhero movies a lot, and like will probably fall across all of them, but I can't say I'd have a favourite that stands out.
It's got a Thor vibe going.
Yeah, probably a bit of a Thor
vibe
with the long hair. Yeah,
you could have stayed on brand and said Brickman's a hero for you. But, you know, clearly he picked wrong. Also, I had to say thanks for building me in the final build, you guys, because I really felt it. As soon as it showed it, I'm like, who's that good-looking pirate?
You know how much I missed you while I was away.
I know how it is. You're only human. So, yeah.
Well, that's all he was thinking about the whole time. So the opportunity that he had to build whatever he wanted, he's like, we've got to build Dave.
Yeah, I know how it is. And I did understand. I spoke a little bit with some of the production stuff. They said the amount of footage they had to edit out of you walking over to windows, fogging them up with your breath, and just writing Dave with your finger and then rubbing your face on it got quite weird and quite expensive, especially with they had to like clean all of those fish tanks because you just kept writing my name with your finger.
Yeah. And every episode it'd be like, what do you want to do for a build? He's like, let's build Dave. I'm like, it doesn't fit the brief. He's like, but can we? And they had to cut all that out too, so unfortunately that didn't make the edit, but thankfully he came to his senses when we...
I'm just sorry to the editor for ruining so much of his time
Yeah.
with your obsession. Awesome. We'll get back into the next movie with this song. It is Dave's Video Graveyard. If you recognise that song, you're going to recognise the next choice from Josh here on DVG. He has picked the franchise. We're going to count them as one choice, one film. Kill Bill Volume 1 and 2 from 2003-2004. Why did you pick this film?
Well, I'm glad you let me pick both, because I was thinking on the way here if I had to pick one to be the first one, just because it is so epic. But the whole thing is really just one story from start to finish, and I just loved it. Again, there's a lot of ridiculousness in it that just would never be a reality. Even like just the amount of blood that pours out of people, especially in that first film. Again, classic. Quentin Tarantino play, but yeah, just loved the story. I loved the rise from vengeance and the fighting against every single odd that could possibly be against her, and just loved the awesome fight scenes as well. It's so good.
It's probably the most perfect example of a filmmaker wearing his heart on his sleeve, figurative and literal. It is such a culmination of everything that Tarantino loves and has always loved. You get the 70s style filming, all the like just basically homage to all the like kung fu movies of the 70s. It is such a well-rounded two films. Like we said, at the time it was released, no one really was getting behind the idea of splitting it up into two films. But at the same point, it builds and builds and builds. And then I said a little bit off air, you expect this massive action set piece for the finale. And then when it literally is just a quiet conversation in a backyard, followed by, obviously, a death strike, it is such a subversion of what you expect. Like, you're like, every fight has been bigger than the last.
Yeah.
Get to the end, it's like, oh, it's not really a fight. So I really appreciate that. The casting is near perfect. And I love the idea of, I don't know how deeply you go with your Tarantino lore, but it's actually hinted at when Uma Thurman's character in Pulp Fiction is talking about the TV pilot that she shot for a show, and it was like the Fate Force 5 or whatever it is. It's pretty much the story of the bride and the rest of the hit women. And yeah, I love this film. It's not my favorite Tarantino film. Well, neither of them are, but it's still right up there.
Yeah, well, again, thinking about what to put on my list, I had to pick a Tarantino film, and I was thinking through them, and this one was the one that I have gone back to multiple times and watched over and over again because I love it so much. But yeah, there were definitely a lot of other ones that could have easily made the list.
What did you think of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood?
I haven't actually seen that one yet.
That's totally forgivable because I think it's his weakest film personally.
Oh, good.
But it got the most adulation, and I think a lot of it had to do with
the last few years. Right? Yeah.
It's last year, I reckon, late last year.
Yeah.
I think it's.
We were filming LEGOmasters. I didn't have time to watch a movie.
Yeah, that's why. Yeah, it's and I always get groans because my favorite isn't one of the most iconic Tarantino. Hateful Eight is my absolute favorite because it is so similar to John Carpenter's The Thing, which is one of my all-time favorite movies. And Tarantino has said, "Oh no, it's just supposed to be The Thing, but set in cowboys." Like, that's pretty much the way, the sense of dread and not knowing and not trusting. This film is visually stunning. A lot of people didn't know how to take it at the time it was released. Obviously, he had the guest direction scene from Robert Rodriguez, another one of my favorite directors, doing the animated backstory scene and stuff like that. But like you say, it informed a lot of action films moving forward. Like, I could not think of many movies, action movies particularly, that used a samurai sword before this film came out. And it seemed like every third one that released after Kill Bill. So you get John Wick rocks out a sword. You get Deadpool obviously has his twin katanas. It became a staple, and it's like they still haven't gone back to the best. And I did like in Deadpool 2. There's a bathhouse scene where he kills all the Yakuza, and it's like it's just a Kill Bill scene. Like, it's so, and like you say, the over-the-top campy blood and everything like that. It's just so well made. And one of the best characters in any Tarantino film is the music.
Yeah, like definitely.
He always perfectly pairs up what films, what scenes are supposed to go with what songs and stuff.
Yeah, so I was just saying that 2 of these songs are my ringtones for my text tone and as well as my phone.
Would it upset you if like one of the students at your school picked it? It's like, oh, that's from Kill Bill. You're like, we need to call your parents. That's very upsetting. That is a fantastic choice. Jumping back to our list, we'll let Josh have another go because while we're in this wheelhouse, Lock, Stock and Two Smoking Barrels, directed by everyone's favorite Aladdin director, Guy Ritchie. I'm really happy to see. I don't know if you saw, he went back to the crime thriller last year with The Gentleman.
Oh my goodness,
and
love that movie.
Is
so
one of the
much.
best movies of the year.
It was so good. I loved it.
It is because
it had very much Lock, Stock and Two Smoking Barrel vibes.
Because he tried to move it when he married Madonna. He tried to move away from the crime because he built he did Lock, Stock and Snatch, and the whole world were like, "Wow, it's the UK version of Tarantino."
Yeah,
and those films are timeless. They look really bad now, but that's a great thing. Like, because they're real gritty. They're independent films. Yeah. They look like crap, but it's got so much charm and so much character and so much writing and direction that they're 2 perfect films. Then he tried to steer away with Washed Away or whatever the movie made. Tried to come back to the genre with Rock and Roller with Gerard Butler and totally forgetting his name. Luther and the
Idris
Gunslinger. Idris Elba, thank you. That film, my love for Gerard Butler wouldn't let me talk bad about that film, but it wasn't as good. But The Gentleman is definitely up
Return
there.
to form.
Yeah,
Yep.
100%. I couldn't recommend that film highly enough. But yeah, do you like Snatch as much?
Yeah, Snatch is a great film. Absolutely love that one, and have seen that quite a few number of times. But I'd say I've seen Lock, Stock more. That's probably why I picked it on my list. Absolutely love just that gritty British crime scene, and just again, there's a lot of nonsense in it that just like doesn't make a whole lot of sense, and a lot of like almost slapstick comedy in some of the scenes where people are just doing the most ridiculous things, and you kind of want the criminals to win in some regard.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's just so many ridiculous scenes as well, and it's a very funny and well directed and edited movie. Yeah.
100%. And that moves us over to the final choice from Trent this evening. You've picked an animated film because you're a grown up.
Yep.
I've got to hit you up and say, for all the toy properties you've hit on, there is a disturbing lack of Terrapins on your list. No turtle films whatsoever. However, you've picked from 1986 the film that broke my heart and I've only ever seen once because it upset me that much. Transformers the movie. Why did you pick this film?
Again, I had to go back to things that I can watch over and over, and this was neck and neck with Turtles. I'll just say that, but it just got the title because I probably watched it more times than Turtles. There's something about this film. It takes all those memories of watching that animation as a child, whatever animation it was, that could be a little bit hit and miss, right, on the day, and puts it into one cohesive, epic story, right? You've got a new threat. You've got a planet-devouring transformer that gets revealed, played by Orson Welles, of all actors. I mean, that's incredible.
Citizen Lame.
Yeah. So the threat and just these treasured characters that you grew up with just get wiped out. They're just like cannon fodder. They're just getting taken out. And as we know, the big spoiler of the film is Optimus Prime gets killed in the kind of opening act. He gets taken out, and
I'm just picturing grey, washed of colour.
Yeah.
And for some reason, I can hear the MASH theme in the back of my mind. I'm having a flashback right now. I'm really upset. It had balls.
Yeah, it had, and that's what I love about this film is it's got that scope, it's got that action adventure feel.
Because kids' movies and family movies can't do this, even
No.
though they're action anymore. I've seen Samuel L. Jackson die as Nick Fury 64 times.
Yeah.
And they always have to bring him back because they just can't pull the trigger, literally or figuratively, the right way. They can never let it be... It can't be absolute. It's never... They always get a backdoor out. Whereas Optimus Prime's still dead in my heart.
Yeah.
Because of this. Leonard Nimoy.
Yep.
Judd Nelson from The Breakfast Club.
Yeah.
Who was your favourite Transformer?
This is going to be controversial, but I loved Rodimus. Hot Rod.
No, that's perfectly right because he's the coolest toy.
Yeah.
You were of an age, Josh, of not really getting any good Transformer stuff except Beast Wars.
No,
the computer animated series.
I can't say that I hugely got into Transformers. I remember as a kid having a few of the figurines, obviously like transforming and driving them around as little cars and stuff. But
you sound like someone that's never had a Transformer making it up based on just knowing the name.
It was a thing, and then it transformed into another thing.
They were toys, and they transformed. They formed Transly.
No, but like I had a few of the figurines as a kid and loved playing with them, and watched probably the newer animated TV series as a kid, but definitely wasn't, like, again, one of the huge things that I fell in love with as a kid. But yeah, enjoyed it. Can't say I was a huge avid fan as much as Trent is.
He hides it well.
He does.
Awesome. So that rounds up your favorite films of all time, guys. Like, that is it's like you just went through like IMDb's like top 5 films of all time.
I did consider doing that to try and be cool, but like just to make sure I was resonating with what was reality. But in the end, I just pulled those out of the memory banks.
We had a guest at one point that we didn't actually know. I won't name the person, but he really wanted to use this as a moment to flex his film knowledge and his, his uniqueness. So he picked like 5 literal art house films that no one had ever heard of. And it was the worst episode we've ever done, apart from tonight. And it was so like, what are you doing? We genuinely want to showcase your memory and what you love about films, your favorite films of all time. To do that is such a waste of everybody's time because you don't have the love that you can show for a film. Like, you can talk about your favorite films easily. It's it's homework. You know when someone tells you to watch a film?
Yep.
That is homework. And doing this show is so often, you've got to see this film, man. You got to see. And I hate the people that follow up 2 weeks later. Oh, it's been 2 weeks. Have you seen that film? It's like, no, I've been.
That's going to be us though with Trent and Kung Pao.
Oh,
I think that's an exception though.
Yeah. We sold it. We really sold it.
Yeah.
I think. So, what have you guys got coming up? Anything on the horizon that you want to promote? Obviously, you have Toy Power Podcast, Trent.
Yeah, you can if you're into toys, which not everyone is, but if you like revisiting your childhood, we do a weekly podcast on toys called Toy Power, where we get to reminisce about all the wonderful toys we grew up with. And they're still making the toys that we love. They still find a way to reach their hand into our pockets because the marketing execs of the 1980s already brainwashed us enough that we're really susceptible to anything that they throw at us now.
A toy exec found a 1985 toy catalogue, or even 89 toy catalogue, and just went, well, there's 2020 sorted.
Done. We're done. Yeah.
I'm not going to pay for it again until they release another Ninja Turtle that I need.
Yeah, exactly.
All of a sudden, it costs money.
But while I've got the airtime as well, I'm wrapping up writing a book. And funnily enough, it's a fantasy novel about knights and wizards and all that sort of stuff. But its genesis was my love for those cartoon properties and almost the disdain I have when they try and relaunch these properties now and they potentially butcher them or mistreat them or do something.
They do.
So I wanted to just go, I'm going to take my childhood and get that down as a story that I can control and I can tell the right way to do it. And I'm going to stop criticizing Hollywood for butchering these memories. I'm going to do it justice. So that was the genesis, funnily enough, of why I decided to write a
and what's the
3-part
name of the book?
You're not impressing anyone because I wrote a colouring in book during isolation. So
oh wow,
whatevs.
I'm gonna have to buy a copy of that. What's the book called?
The book is a 3-part first part in a 3-part trilogy called The Dark Epoch, and the first part of the book is Search for the Light Seeker.
Lovely.
So what is an epoch for those playing at home?
It's an age basically.
Oh, cool.
So yeah,
nice. And is there somewhere people can like keep an eye on that, or just follow you on social media?
Yeah, you could just follow me. Eventually, I'll do the promotion, the social media promotion, which is probably get a website. Is that what the cool kids do these days? Is it a website?
Get a Squarespace. If you need an overweight ginger to play any character in the film adaptation, get Donald Logue. But if not, get me.
I have you appear in the book, Davey. There's not many. I haven't worked any of my people that I know into it except for yourself.
Wow.
So it's you're in there.
It is super cruel as well doing that though because I can't read. That would be like giving like someone with no legs a present at the top of a staircase. It's just, why would you do that, Trent? You're such that guy. And people can follow you on social media, Josh.
Yeah, I think I don't have any major events coming up, but Trent and I have hopefully got a few Lego builds planned, or as we say in South Australia, Lego builds.
No, we don't.
Planned, which hopefully will get a bit of, screen time and social media time. So yeah, you can follow all those things. Will be advertised through our socials on Instagram. So I'm at Joshua I Taylor. And what are you, Trent? At Fugitoid.
Fugitoid 1932.
Awesome.
Nice.
Guys, thank you so very much for joining us here on DVG. Make sure you stick around. Coming up, Krez is in the studio for the Emerald Tower, should I say. This is 100.5 WOW FM.